Hello and welcome to News Central Television. I am Dakbo Adigboye, and here are stories making headlines beyond the continent. We begin the news at this hour in America, where a majority of justices on the U.S. Supreme Court appeared to be leaning on Thursday towards rejecting a ruling by a state court that would bar Donald Trump from running for president again. During 2 hours of high-stakes argument, both conservative and liberal members of the nation's highest court expressed concern about having states decide individually which candidates can be on the presidential ballot this November. The question before the 9 justices was whether Trump is ineligible to appear on the Republican presidential primary ballot in the state of Colorado because he engaged in an insurrection. The January 6, 2021 assault on the U.S. Capitol by his supporters. Colorado Supreme Court, citing the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, ruled in December that Trump, the front-runner for the 2024 Republican nomination, should be barred from appearing on the ballot because of his role on January 6th. Now, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment bars anyone from holding public office if they engaged in insurrection or rebellion, after once pleading to support and defend the Constitution. In South America, Chilean President Gabriel Boric has announced the activation of the National Reconstruction Fund. According to him, it is an important mechanism to channel and encourage aid and support from the private world every time emergencies of this nature shake the country. Now, the Southern American country is reeling from vicious wildfires that left at least 131 persons dead in the coastal Valparaiso region and scorched entire communities.
De empresas. Quiero anunciar en este momento la activación del Fondo Nacional de Reconstrucción. Esta es una herramienta específica que fue creada tras el terremoto del 2010 en el primer mandato del expresidente Piñera, y ha sido un mecanismo importante para poder canalizar e incentivar ayudas y apoyos del mundo privado cada vez que emergencias de estas características sacuden a nuestra patria. Además, otorga beneficios tributarios para donaciones de empresas y personas naturales en contexto de catástrofe. Este fondo se encuentra activo a partir de hoy y desde ya se pueden realizar aportes en dinero o especias a través del sitio web donaciones.hacienda.gov.cl. No existe un mínimo de donación y se puede realizar desde Chile o desde el extranjero para financiar obras específicas o para el Fondo General.
Still in the country, Chileans walk around the casket of former President Sebastián Piñera to pay their last respects inside the former National Congress in Santiago, where he lies in state until the main funeral on February 9th. The 74-year-old billionaire served 2 non-consecutive terms in office, leaving his final mandate in 2022. Los Rios regional prosecutor, that's Tania Aquel-Vicul, says Piñera died on Tuesday afternoon from an ailment due to submersion in the city of Valdivia. Now, that's 850 kilometers south of Santiago, about 70 kilometers from Lago Ranco, where the accident occurred. Piñera was piloting his helicopter with 3 other persons, including his sister, who was unarmed. He was free without his belt. On the side of the helicopter, that's about 28 meters deep, said firefighters who rescued him on Wednesday. Now let's bring you an update from the conflict in the Middle East, where Israeli strikes has hit the southern Lebanese villages of Afar and Kila and also Qim. Now, since the outbreak of the war between Hamas and Israel on October 7th, the Lebanese-Israeli border has witnessed a near-daily exchange of fire between Israel's army and Lebanon's Shiite movement Hezbollah, a Hamas ally. Now, there's been no report of any deaths or injuries. To political matters now in Asia, where counting is underway after millions of Pakistanis voted. The candidates of the Pakistan People's Party, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, has condemned the suspension of mobile services as he cast his vote in Lankana. Zardari added that it will affect the voter turnout in the country and alter the coordination of the polling day. The son of the assassinated former Pakistani Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, Zardari served as foreign minister alongside the PML-N's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, as authorities suspended mobile phone services throughout the day of the vote. That's on Thursday, while the country's most popular politician, Imran Khan, is currently in jail.
आज मैं आया हूं अपना वोट डालने के लिए और मैं पाकिस्तान के अवाम को दरख्वास्त करता हूं कि निकलो, अपना आपका वोट आपका ताकत है, ज़रूर इस्तेमाल करें और इस मुल्क के मुस्तकिल के फैसले उनके हाथ में हैं। सर्विसेज के बारे में मैं बिल्कुल इसका मज़ाहमत करता हूं। मैं मुतालबा करता हूं इलेक्शन कमीशन से, इंटरिम गवर्नमेंट से, अदालतों से कि मोबाइल सर्विसेज को बहाल किया जाए। ये पूरा मुल्क में वोटर टर्नआउट पे भी असर होगा।
Let's also tell you that millions of Pakistanis have voted in an election marred by allegations of Paul Regan, with the country's most popular politician in jail and a military-favored candidate tipped to win. The Pakistan Muslim League is expected to win the most seats following Thursday's vote, with analysts saying its 74-year-old founder, Nawaz Sharif, has the blessings of the generals. As women cast their ballot, they hope their vote can bring changes to education and employment for them.
असां हुन घरों पैदल टुरे से ते ट्रैक्टर टालते रस्ते च आए से इथों तक सब बहुत तंगी था सवारी दी स्कूल कहनी जवान बेटियां हैं पे घर में ते वो बहुत दूर इथे पैदल सारे वास्ते बहुत मसला है पिया बेरोजगारी बहुत है इथा औरतां दी खवातीन दी ताकि इथा कोई रोजगारी कहनी जड़ी औरतां ना काम कर सके इथा
जी वोट पावन दा सारा मकसद ये है कि महंगाई बहुत है दूजा स्कूल दूर है निश्तर कह नहीं अस्पताल कह नहीं मरीज दे वजन दा गोदाम तोड़ वैन
Meanwhile, China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Weibin has condemned the deadly attacks in Pakistan claimed by the Islamic State group, as he wished the South Asian nation a smooth and safe general election. More than 650,000 army, paramilitary and police personnel were deployed to provide security. At least 7 officers were killed in 2 separate attacks targeting election security details, and officials reported a string of minor blasts in the southwestern Balochistan province that wounded 2 people.
我们对巴基斯坦发生的袭击事件深感震惊，对袭击予以强烈谴责。我们对遇难者表示哀悼，向遇难者家属和受伤人员表示慰问。中方反对一切形式的恐怖主义，坚定支持巴基斯坦政府和人民为根除恐怖主义、实现社会安全稳定所做的不懈努力。你提到巴基斯坦的大选，巴基斯坦的大选是巴内政作为全天候的战略合作伙伴和铁杆朋友，我们祝愿巴基斯坦大选顺利平稳。
Joining us now to give insight is our international correspondent Afua Hagan. Thank you. And of course, let's start off with what effect did the shutdown of mobile network services have on the election?
Well, this occurred only about 10 minutes before polls were due to open, and it meant people couldn't do things like find out where their nearest polling station was, or order a cab to get there, or coordinate with friends and family so they could go and vote together. Now, some people in the country are saying that they expected this to happen, that they widely expected that the powers that be would shut down the mobile phone services to try and make it difficult for people to vote. Other people saying that they were completely shocked and surprised that this happened. Now, it's thought that Wi-Fi connections on the ground were still working, but mobile phone and data services were turned off. Now, security services say that this is because of those deadly ISIS attacks that you saw that Chinese official condemning there, which saw people being killed in a run-up to the election. It was to stop people from coordinating more attacks, but it also stopped people from being able to get out to vote in a way that was beneficial for them.
Now, there have been rising struggles for people trying to vote and also violence across the country. Hasn't there? And also, can you bring us up to speed on some of this situation?
Absolutely. So you had 128 million people registered to cast their votes today. Almost half of those are under the age of 35. 5,000 candidates, you've only got 133 women in there. Picking out the candidates between them is really difficult. What are all the differences? And all sorts of things have been happening. And these are all different parties that are kind of trying to make it difficult for people to vote. So we had the loss of mobile phone services. A lot of people in Pakistan can't read, so parties use different symbols to illustrate who they are. Symbols have been changing halfway through the election, so people don't quite know who it is that they are voting for. So all kinds of things are happening. All kinds of these different struggles are happening. There's all kind of tactics being used by each of the different parties that are trying to vie for this election. Of course, you have Imran Khan, who has been jailed to about 14 years in prison. He's been sentenced in 3 separate cases in 5 days. Now, his party, the PTI, are a very strong party, very popular with people. But because he's not on the ballot, because he's been sentenced to 14 years in prison, he isn't on the ballot. And a lot of people feel that they aren't necessarily being represented. You know, you had a Gallup poll that came out just last month that showed that his party and Imran Khan and his party were still the most popular party in Pakistan, but he's not even on the poll, not even on the ballot paper, excuse me, so cannot even be voted for. So a lot of people very upset about that.
All right, now when will results be announced?
And that's a really, really good question. Now, results have to be announced within 2 weeks. At the moment, we have no indication of who the winning party might be. It may take a while for those results to come in. Remember, you have a situation where you've had terrorist attacks leading up to the election, where you've had mobile phone services being cut off, where you've had symbols being removed on ballot paper, so people don't know quite who they are voting for. There's a lot of different actors in play when it comes to this election, and all these different factions are going to make it difficult, number one, for people to vote, and number two, for there to be a clean-cut and clear winner in this election. Like I said, the winner has to be declared within the next 2 weeks. And I think it will take a few days before we even get an indication from any kind of exit polls who might the winning faction be. But I think probably I anticipate in about a week to 10 days, we will have an indication of which party will win.
Afua Hagan, thank you so much for your time. We'll go on a quick break. When we return, we have more stories. Stay with us. We'll continue the news in Europe, where Azerbaijan election observers say the presidential election, which saw President Ilham Aliyev secure a 5th term, lacked political competition and was marred by serious electoral shortcomings and media restriction. The president was re-elected on Wednesday with 92% of the vote in a ballot held during a crackdown on independent media in the absence of any real opposition. His win was the expected outcome after his country's historic victory over Armenian separatists last year. The observers also said that the recent arrest of critical journalists have hindered the media from operating freely.
However, the campaign itself was barely visible. It generated little public engagement, and it lacked a competitive element. None of the 6 other candidates registered to take part in the election challenged the incumbent convincingly, though some did present platforms calling for political reform. A number of our interlocutors raised their concerns that the space for independent observers is shrinking, and this along with the space for independent media and oppositional political.
Russia's election commission has blocked pro-peace politician Boris Nadezhdin from running in next month's presidential race. President Vladimir Putin is set to secure another 6-year term in the March 15th to 17th context, in which all major opposition politicians have now been barred from standing. Only 3 other candidates, all from ceremonial opposition parties that are backed by the Kremlin, will take part.
Решение, в принципе, ожидаемое. Дальше судебные процедуры. 10 дней есть на обжалование в Верховном суде отказа в регистрации. Постараемся быстрее, чего тянуть-то. Все более-менее понятно. Потом есть Конституционный суд. Обжаловать будем, кстати, в основном даже не само вот это решение Центра избиркома. Тут к нему придраться-то сложно, да, там. Они действовали по своей процедуре. Обжаловать в первую очередь будем сами законы и те инструкции, на основании которых можно сделать то, что сделано. Вот ни у кого нет никаких сомнений, что действительно за меня поставили подписи сотни тысяч людей. Вот нет никаких в этом сомнений. Дальше запускается какая-то бюрократическая машинка, какие-то сканы, которые там через раз все неправильно делают. Дальше у нас технически нет времени. Эта система избирательная не готова к тому, что человек реально соберет 2000 подписей, да, а не где-то их там изготовит.
Away from election matters now, for the first time, global warming has exceeded 1.5 degrees Celsius across all the entire year period. Now, according to Europe's climate monitor, Earth has endured about 12 months of temperatures at about 1.5 degrees Celsius hotter than the pre-industrial era for the first time on record, in what scientists called a warning to humanity. Copernicus Climate Change Service, the C3S service, said the extremes have continued into 2024, confirming that February 2023 to January 2024 saw global warming as at the level of 1.52 degrees Celsius above the 19th century benchmark. Storms, droughts, and wildfires have lashed the planet as climate change, supercharged by the naturally occurring El Nino phenomenon, stoked record warming in 2023, making it likely the hottest in 100,000 years. A German Navy frigate set sail for the Red Sea on Thursday to protect commercial ships from attacks by Yemeni rebels. This is part of a planned European Union mission. The deployment marked the most serious engagement of the unit of the German Navy in many decades. Navy Chief Jean-Christian Nack told reporters in Berlin. Now, Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels have launched a series of attacks on ships crossing the Red Sea since November, saying their campaign was in solidarity with Palestinians in the war between Israel and Hamas. The Red Sea normally carries about 12% of global maritime trade. The unrest has prompted some shipping companies to reroute their vessel away from the Red Sea, making them take the longer and costlier route around the southern tip of Africa. Now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called on the country's new military leadership to devise a new strategy for this year to beat Russian forces. He stated this on social media after appointing the new commander-in-chief of the country's armed forces. Zelensky further noted a realistic, detailed action plan for the armed forces of Ukraine for 2024 should be on the table.
Очікую найближчим часом таких змін в Збройних силах України. На столі має з'явитись реалістичний, детальний план дій Збройних сил України на 2024 рік. Із врахуванням реальної ситуації на полі бою зараз.
French Justice Minister Eric Dupond-Moretti says that the amount of criminal assets seized in France almost doubled in 1 year in 2023, reaching a record of 1.4 billion euros. He said this during a visit to the Agency for the Management and Recovery of Seized and Confiscated Assets in Paris. Of the seized asset, 110 million euros was paid to the general state budget, while 95 million euros was paid to compensate victims. This compares to 17 million euros in 2022 2. The Agency for the Management and Recovery of Seized and Confiscated Assets, created in 2011, is responsible for managing assets resulting from crime, whether real estate, cars, luxury watches, cash, or crypto assets. 175 million euros from the assets will be added to the state budget.
1,4 milliard d'euros, 1,4 milliard d'euros de saisie, et ça représente une augmentation de 87% par rapport à l'année précédente. Et en matière de confiscation, c'est ce qui nous intéresse, vous faites évidemment la distinction entre saisie et confiscation. C'est un chiffre très impressionnant, c'est 175,5 millions d'euros saisis.
A volcano in Iceland erupted on Thursday for the second time this year, pumping lava up to 18 meters into the air in what is the 6th outbreak on the southwestern peninsula since 2021. Live video from the area showed fountains of bright orange molten rock spewing from fissures in the ground, in sharp contrast to the still dark night sky. Ireland's Department for Civil Protection and Emergency Management raised the public alert level to one step short of a state of emergency, as lava was moving up pipes, traveling hot water to the Rojaskirjens Peninsula. Intense earthquake activities began around 5:30 a.m. and the outbreak itself started some 30 minutes later. The previous eruption in the area started on January 14th and lasted roughly 2 days, with lava flows reaching the outskirts of the Grandvik, a fishing town whose nearly 4,000 inhabitants have been evacuated, setting some houses alight. Of course, that wraps up the news at this time. Don't forget to send in your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. You can actually follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Abo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dakwa Adigboye.